everyone. My name is Tilanka. I'm a front-end developer from Deloitte Digital, based out of sunny Melbourne. And today I'm here to talk to you about how you can use ES6 patterns in your Drupal, in your JavaScript libraries, and incorporate modern front-end development into your Drupal themes. So I've only got a 10-minute talk, so I'm just going to get straight into it. So firstly, what do I mean when I say ES6? So ES6 is the informal term that us front-end developers use. It's formerly known as ES 2015, which stands for ECMAScript 2015. And what it is it's the 6th iteration of the JavaScript spec. So it was released in 2015, and it was kind of a big deal because it was the first major release since the previous one, 5.1, which was in 2011, which is a bit of a gap, 4 years. It introduced a lot of new syntax and features. I don't have time, obviously, to go through all of them today, but this link is pretty good. It's got all of them, compares them to ES5 sometimes, and it's got links back to the Mozilla Developer Network as well. So I highly recommend you check it out. And since ES6 was released, it's actually been followed by ES7 and now ES8, which I think has been formalized now, but if not, it's pretty close. So why should you use it? There's many reasons, but the main ones that I'm going to focus on today are, firstly, it gives you a lot of functions now natively that previously you would either have to write your own utility function or get a library that did it. There's many of these. I've picked one example here, which is the native, the ES6 array find method. And what it is it lets you pass in a function, and it'll return you the first thing in that array that returns true for that function. Now I copied this from MDN, and this is on 2 lines for clarity, but there's another thing in ES6 called arrow functions, which you could use to literally write this whole thing in 1 line. So previously in ES5, you can do that. You'd have to write something else and call that or use a library. So that's one good thing. The other good thing about ES6 is it now introduces a lot of things out of the box that let you write better code. So some of these that I've chosen are modules. So the concept of modules and exports lets you package your code up nicely. There's things like, I've been reading about things like classes, which back-end developers have been making fun of us front-end devs for ages for not having. Now we have it out of the box. Stuff like promises, which helps you write your asynchronous code better and structure it better. I mean, promises existed before, but now they come out of the box. Block scoping of variables. These are the main ones I've picked on here, but there's many more that just improve the way you'd write front-end code. And then, of course, it comes with a lot of syntactic sugar, which just makes your life easier. So, browser support, the bane of all front-end developers. So it's pretty good in the main ones, the evergreen ones, the good ones, but it's still not 100% anywhere. And that's a small percent, but that's enough to give you enough edge case bugs. And if you have to support IE, of course, you've got no chance. And ideally you wouldn't, but you do usually, so too bad. And then this is I took the screenshot a few days ago, so it's pretty current, but this is still 2 years from when it was released. If you look at this for ES7 and ES8, it's definitely going to be way worse. And the key point here is there's always going to be a lag between when the ECMAScript is finalized and when browsers decide to implement it. That's just the nature of the beast. So you'll never be able to implement it as soon as it's ready. But the good news is you don't have to wait. And I'm going to show you how. So there's a couple of tools that you'd need in order to use ES6 in your to write it safely. And one of them is this little thing called Babel, which I presume is named after the Babel fish from Hitchhikers, but I haven't checked, so don't quote me on that. And what it does is it transpiles your ES6 code, or beyond even, to the latest version that browsers run, which is the safest one that browsers can run, which is ES5. So you can write your code in ES6, Babel does its magic on it, and it spits out ES5, and that's what you send to the browser. The other piece of the puzzle is Webpack, which is, essentially it's a module bundler, but what Webpack does is it's got this concept of loaders, and then that's how you'd incorporate Babel. So there's a Babel loader, you run that through Webpack, and then it gives you a little ES5 script, which you can then bundle out or write out on its own. So what does that look like? So I'm going to start with the Webpack config. Actually, I'll just start with the packages. So what you'd have to do is there's a few dependencies you need to install. So basically, Webpack is one of them. And then the Babel preset, the Babel load, and Babel core. I'll get back to the scripting a bit later. Once you've installed these, you get a Webpack .config.js file, which basically configures your web app. And it's got It's JSON. Sorry, YAML fans, but it is JSON. It's got a lot of options, and the API is quite detailed, but I'm just going to focus on the main ones that you need, or the minimum ones. So the first bit, if you read this from the bottom up, the first bit is the loader. So what this section of code is saying is, test everything that matches this regex, which is any .js file, run it through the Babel loader. And what this preset means is this is telling Babel what version of JavaScript you have in your source code. So this is ES 2015, which is ES6. If you're writing 7, this would be ES 2016. If it's 8, 2017. If you can't be bothered changing this every year, you can. There's another preset that I think is just called ENV, and that's just latest. So you just put that in once and you're done. But I've kept this in for clarity. So then that's the Babel loader, and then the next bit is the bundler. So if you have multiple files, you could have a bunch of them that compiles to one, or you could just go one-to-one, which I've done here. And the reason for that is because of Drupal library, so I'll get into that a bit later. But so basically, this is my source ES6 file. So Webpack will take this, do this stuff on it, and then build this for me, generate this one for me. And what this little script thing is, if you add this to your package.json, if you then call npm run whatever script you've got here, it will just run whatever's on the right-hand side. And this right-hand side is essentially just calling the node module that I've installed here. So what does that look like? I wasn't game enough to try live coding in a 10-minute talk, so I just took a screenshot. All you have to do once you've got this set up is just do npm run webpack. And then, as you can see, it'll just run. This is my little theme folder. And it's just gone and built this file. That's my source file. It's just gone and built this file here. So then how do you structure your theme? So this is the way I like to do it, and the way we like to do it a lot. So you have your source files in this source folder inside your theme. So this is like the root level of your theme. You get your theme info, theme libraries, blah, blah, blah. Your webpack config also lives there, package.json. And so basically when you run this for whatever pattern you've put in here, you'll get this generated. So I hope you can see that. It's just the grayed out version of the build. Yeah, and then and I like to use this pattern. You don't really have to use this. You can just go .js. And then in your Drupal theme, you define your library like this. And then this is what Drupal serves to the browser. And then this is your safely built ES5 script. And that's essentially it. That's how you would include it in your theme. But so what I've presented so far is a fairly basic example, of course. When you scale this up to actual projects, there's a few things you need to think about. Like, you can't really be running, custom NPM scripts all the time. So what you do is you'd use a task manager like Gulp.js or Grunt.js, whatever you prefer, and then you'd sort of codify and automate all that stuff, and then you'd have Grunt go in and call Webpack or do whatever you want. And what we do is we typically we lint it, then we build it, and then we build our CSS and stuff with it as well. We're looking to open source the scripts that we use, so watch this space, and then it'll be even easier if you'd write ES6 in your Drupal theme. But essentially, in a real project, you would combine this stuff with a task manager. The other thing you need to think about is how you manage the dependencies of your theme libraries. So if your theme's got if your library file's got a dependency, you can do it via Drupal in your theme libraries. You can just go dependencies and specify it. But if you're writing ES6, the kind of nice, clean way to do it is you import it using the ES6 import function, and you install it as a node module. But there's pros and cons of this. Obviously, if you install it as a node module, if you let Drupal do it, then you get all this, the nice stuff the CMS does. It only sends a dependency once. It packages it all up, doesn't double install it, all this stuff. But then if you do it via node module, it's a little bit cleaner. So there's trade-offs. So you kind of need to probably make the decision based on your project. The other thing to consider is excuse me, the build files. Do you keep them in source control or not? So I think Drupal core is now moving to ES6, and they keep the build files in there. So if you keep it in there, obviously, what's in your source code is all you need. But that makes your code management a bit harder, because you get non-conflicting changes in your source file will introduce conflicting changes in your build file, and whenever you've got people merging, you're just going to get all these conflicts that are a pain, which you can just rebuild. But if you don't keep your build files in there, excuse me, if you don't keep them in there, then you need to build it when you deploy. So then that complicates your deployment pipeline. So there's a pro and con there as well. We normally don't build it. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a break. We prefer to not have it in source control and add it to our build pipeline, but again, that's a decision that you'd have to make for yourself. So that brings me to my conclusion, which is basically using ES6 in your code leads to, in my opinion, better code that's easier to write, it's easier to maintain. And with the modern Node.js-based Node.js-based tools that we have, it's quite easy to integrate this into your Drupal module or theme. So you should. That's it. Yeah, come.